All right, so this is a workflow that I've discovered that works really well for me. I'm a product design manager at a large tech company, and this is how I use AI for various things in my life and my job. I'm going to cover the best tools for which purposes, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about doing research and analysis with AI and what meta analysis is and how AI can help do it. Then I'm going to cover Gemini Deep Research, how I use it, example output, and how I plug it into a tool called Gemini Notebook LM to consume it. So, anyhow, I think this is a workflow that anybody would benefit from, but primarily tech workers and knowledge workers. Okay, so best tools in the AI space. I recommend having a look at some of these benchmarks. There's various tools here for reviewing the performance of various LLMs. And in this tool, you can see that OpenAI largely remains on top for various different tasks and abilities. You can review this at your own leisure. But largely, I still use ChatGPT for the majority of my work, and I use Gemini because I'm a heavy Google user. But I typically go to GPT first for a lot of my tasks. But generally speaking, GPT remains the leader. But you can review these benchmarks on your own and see where your favorite tool stands. So, um, using AI in my job and my life. First, real quick note on meta analysis. So, anytime I start a project, I usually start with GPT. By the way, I pay for all these tools, and I pay about $30 a month for GPT and Gemini. That's the extent of what I pay for AI tools. Gemini, for Google, I have the advanced premium Gemini account, which costs $20 a month, but 10 of that is for Google One, which gives me 2 terabytes of data storage. So really, I'm kind of paying an additional $10 for Gemini there. So depending on how you look at it, what I'm about to share with you will cost you about $40, $30 to $40 a month. So anyways, the two primary tools, I start with ChatGPT. And just to give you a sense of what meta-analysis is, if you're trying to research any particular topic, in the two examples I'm about to give you, I show you how I researched a family trip that we're about to take, and then I show you how I research design, management, leadership, and the skills that I need to develop. So in those two examples, what's often difficult in researching any given topic like that is you are forced to go to a singular source and research it. You'll find an article on a destination that you're going to and read all about that destination. And you might go to a few other articles, but those are always going to be biased or have a singular perspective. And in research methodologies, oftentimes the best way to approach research is to review several different studies or resources and come to a consensus across all those multiple resources. And that's called meta-analysis. And you can do a search, Google search or GPT review on that. But I think that this is one of the most powerful ways to use AI is to do meta-analysis across many different resources, saving you tons of time and money. So what I'm going to show you is how I do meta-analysis on various topics related to my personal life and my work life. Okay, so a note on Gemini Deep Research. So when you pay for Gemini, you have this toggle here, and you have several different options, and one of them is Deep Research. And what Deep Research is, there's tons of videos online about this, but it's a tool that enables you to do research across many different resources based on a singular prompt. And so my family's going to Yellowstone in March. Actually, it's June, so I'm going to have to redo this. But anyways, this is the prompt that I filled in. And as a simple prompt, I said, my family and I will be taking a trip to Yellowstone in March, and I'd like to know about the best kept secrets, top tips, and fun things to do while avoiding crowds. And it took probably about 5 minutes for it to produce this, but before it produced it, before I hit this research button, it told you what it was going to do. It was going to find less crowded areas, trails, find the best times of day to visit, find unique and lesser known activities, find tips, etc. So it tells you exactly what it's going to do, and then it analyzes the results and it creates a report. And when you're ready to go, you could have a back and forth to modify this, but that was fine with me. I hit start research, and it took, like I said, a few minutes, and then the report was complete. And so at the bottom of the report, you can see all the websites that it scraped in resources, and this is effectively meta-analysis. Imagine how long it would take you to go through all of these websites and consume all of the content in them. It's just unreal. And it puts it into this nice and tidy report that you can read. But, again, that's actually kind of inefficient in and of itself, too. I will probably read this, but this is the point at which I actually go to another favorite tool. So that's deep research, and that's showing you the Yellowstone family trip example and how I use it in the example output. But what I do then is I open this in Google Docs, and hopefully in the future they'll actually unify all of this a little bit more. But I'll open it in Google Docs, and what that does is, I don't know why that's in the trash. Take it out of the trash. It puts it into a Google Doc. And by the way, Gemini is available in all of these places. So you can have a conversation with Gemini about this content at any time or do further analysis on it. You can even do that here. You could regenerate the report. But the reason I put it into a Google Doc is so that I can share the report. But also, this brings me to my next favorite tool. You could just copy and paste this, by the way, into the next tool, but I like to open it in Google Docs. So this is an optional step, but I find that it's easier. So the next tool is then Notebook LM. So Google Notebook LM is a tool for researching. So basically, when you go to notebooklm.google.com and click Create New, you'll see this modal. And here you can plug in a bunch of different resources. So it's similar to the deep research tool, but where the deep research tool does the research for you, it gets all of the assets and documents and compiles it into a report. This would be used if you had a bunch of different assets on your desktop or the web, you had a bunch of links and videos and assets in your Google Drive, you could compile your own report. So it's pretty similar. But what I do from here is then I'll go to Google Docs and select that report that I exported from deep research. And what that does is, if you had many resources, imagine those 148 websites that I were used to produce this report, they would show up here. You could manually put those in, and you'd probably get a pretty similar experience here in Notebook. But what's wonderful about Notebook is you can then go much deeper into the report. So while you're in deep research, this is pretty limited. You can't add notes. You can't do too much further analysis. Inside of Notebook LM, there's so much more you can do. You can add notes. And one of my favorite things is you can produce a podcast. So you might not have time to consume all of this content and read it. It might be nice to generate a podcast and listen to it while you're driving, you're at the gym or whatever. And I actually did this. I sent it to my wife, and this is the text message, but she is naturally not inclined to appreciate AI, but I did share it with her, and she thought it was really cool. So I think it's useful above and beyond tech workers and the likes. I think you can produce content that other people in your family might enjoy. So I really encourage you to explore this. And I don't know if the audio is going to work. I'm using QuickTime to record this. Anyways, I'll check that after. But when you play it, basically two people talking in podcast form about the content, and it feels really natural. You can even go in interactive mode and have a back and forth conversation. So that's how I do research and consume it. And so that was for my family trip. I'll share now one about, I mentioned I'm a product design manager, and I was curious, like, what's the latest research and insights around product design leadership? This was my initial prompt, and it was about leaders in technology companies. And I went through this exercise, and I specifically asked it to use resources and websites that cite their references and have high traffic, so I didn't want any fringe Medium posts or things like that. And this was what it told me it would do. It named specific high-profile websites and articles that focus on latest research, etc. I liked it. I said, hey, start research. And when I read the original one, it was good, but I forgot to mention focus on product design. So I had it redo the report with a focus on product design industry and leaders and leadership in that space, and asked it to keep the same perspective as the previous report. So it went ahead and did the report again, and this is what came out of it. So pretty good report. I did read this one. I think that I would have some back and forth here if I wanted to do this again to refine it and show a little bit more context and a little bit more insight. But largely pretty good overview, and you can see it searched 36 websites. So I went ahead, followed that same process. I exported it to a Google Doc. I could probably make a Medium post out of this that feels a little, I don't know, a little bit not right, but I'm sure people are doing that. I could share this document with others in my work if I wanted to. But anyways, I went then back to Notebook LM, and I produced a podcast that I'm going to listen to. And then these are ways to create notes. You can either create a manual note as you're reviewing the content, or you can generate quick notes. So you could create a study guide. This is, for example, if you're going to take a test, if you're using this tool to research academic content for a test, it gives you a quiz with answer key, so you can sort of quiz yourself and study. And that's a pretty interesting way to consume the content. There is a timeline view, which was hard to understand at first, but basically it interprets the research based on time and tells you basically what has happened in the past, what was the shift, and what are the present sort of focuses of whatever content that there might be. And then the other one that you can do, I didn't do FAQ here on this one, but I did timeline, or I'm sorry, I did a briefing doc. So perhaps I'm about to go into a mentorship meeting on product design leadership, and I want to quickly brush up on it. This would be a way to kind of quickly get the key themes and ideas of the content. Is this quicker way of consuming the content? Maybe. I think you'd have to do some back and forth and give it some tries, but nonetheless, this is one way of studying the content. So that's a process that I have found works well for my work life and personal life, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks.